Good evening. Today we are going to talk about technology and liberty. And I would like to start by asking our invitees whether technology is a friend of liberty or is enemy of liberty. What do you think? Is it a tool in the hands of the governments that can repress individuals, or is it a tool in the hands of the individuals that can protect their intimacy, privacy, and liberty?
It's both. Clearly, a lot of technology has been used by governments to repress their citizens, but on the same, on the same token, there are a lot of people who are now building new technologies specifically to help free people in their lives. So there are a lot of things out there, such as Bitcoin that's freeing money, a project I work on, Open Bazaar, that's freeing up trade. There are people who are running companies either because they believe in what they're doing, providing something for society that's beneficial, or they're just doing it to make money, which is fine. Mm-hmm. Things like Uber, who are helping improve transportation, but clearly technology cuts both ways. But I am excited by a lot of innovations that I have seen just in the past 10 years or so around the internet that are helping to free people.
Yes, indeed. A few years ago, technology started moving to help people, to create new models, new ways to communicate, and we were talking about, for example, Bitcoin. We were talking about new economy models like, for example, social economy like Uber, Airbnb. Uber was, it's amazing, and it's one of the most regulated, industry in not only because the country but the cities, and they did it. So I mean, technology it's moving to the right side, not only against government, against people that try to control what's really happening. We can talk also about Cuba, for example. People from Cuba is seeking the way to be connected, and they are winning. It's very slow, but they are winning. You can see in La Habana people, in a small crowd of people close to the hotels, close to the specific access point, looking for connection, looking for internet, and learning what's happening out the borders.
There are a lot of barriers to free action in every country, basically, around the world. You find many barriers to free exchange and to live your life in the way that you want. Do you think the improvements that we're going to see, if we see them in the coming years, are going to come from changes in regulation or rather from technology?
I think technology, largely. And one reason is that with political reform, regulatory reform, there's no necessarily a sense of permanence associated. Whoever is in power at the time can change their mind, for better or for worse. Whereas with technology, once new innovation has reached the public and been embraced, you almost never go backward. It's very difficult to do that, especially with some of the emerging technologies that are decentralized. If there's a centralized technology put forward where the government can access a point of control and shut it down, then maybe you will have a reduction in freedom because of that. But when you have a decentralized technology where people all over the world are a part of a network, it is effectively impossible for any government to shut it down. So as we see decentralized technologies become more popular, such as the internet itself is a decentralized application, I think the technology is going to become something that maybe slowly but surely makes people more free, whereas politics may or may not.
In fact, it's amazing to realize the way that technology is trying to defend itself from that kind of threats. For example, Sam is talking about, for example, BitTorrents. It's an amazing protocol, this decentralized one. So it's almost impossible to stop. We were talking about connection. You know, the technologies. It's looking the way to get a low cost and free connection and defend itself against the threats of government who want to control who can access to the information and the way they can do it. No? So big company like Google, Facebook, in fact, they are looking for reaching more customers, not only to offer connect, but it's indeed they are letting us to get the possibility to connect directly with no through the official line, but through the free market offer.
Yeah, it's a question of who are the gatekeepers of information, basically. And just before the internet, the gatekeepers of information were television broadcasters, newspapers, and those are very easy for governments to exert control over. But now with the internet, those gatekeepers may still have some sway, but the ability to communicate directly between each other, which is at this point really difficult or impossible to stop, means those gatekeepers are diminishing in importance over time.
If you would have to choose a couple of technologies that you would think that are going to make our world a freer place in the coming years, which technologies would be?
I've already mentioned Bitcoin and Open Bazaar, and I'll just stick with those because I work with them all the time and I love to talk about them. And I think they're great examples. For folks who aren't familiar, Bitcoin is a digital currency that is completely decentralized, as I mentioned, which means there's no company, organization, or government that can artificially inflate the supply or take people's Bitcoin away from them or basically shut down the network, as they could do with the credit card system or with PayPal or with other traditional banking systems. So Bitcoin is a way for people on the internet to exchange value with each other, currency with each other, that is outside of the control of big organizations and governments. So I think that will be immensely helpful for people's human freedom. And then the project that I work on, Open Bazaar, is a decentralized marketplace. So if you have this decentralized money, you want to have a decentralized marketplace for people to be able to spend on for the same reasons that no organization or government can come in and shut down the marketplace. Companies cannot take a take of every transaction. There's no middleman involved. It's completely peer-to-peer between people. So this allows people to not have all their data collected by someone, allows them to engage and trade with goods that governments or companies may not agree with or prohibit. And it just in general gives them more control over their own online trade, which I think is really important for people to be able to help themselves.
And I would like to add, in fact, blockchain as a protocol, as the way that Bitcoin is able to do things like that. Because for me, blockchain is the way that is helping us to avoid some kind of corruption, because blockchain, we can use it to create new process, new procedures, and to change the way we connect process and systems, and definitely Bitcoin and blockchain for me are one of the milestones.
What I'm hearing sounds like instead of changing regulation, we can make regulation irrelevant. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, more or less. I mean, look, if governments are not willing to respond to changes in society and people's desires to be more free, then technology just outpaces them. It's just technology evolves faster than regulators regulate.
Step ahead.
Yeah, it's a step ahead. And so, yeah, I think the model is just going to be, let's just do it, instead of asking for permission.
Isn't there threats in case the technology becomes more intelligent than the human beings? Is there one day we can be working for the machines or the intelligent
That's a
machines?
big question.
It's a big question. In fact, yeah.
There is a you may be alluding to like artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
So there is certainly a movement of people in the among technologists who are concerned that artificial intelligence could be bad for humanity long term. I'm not really among them. I think the threat may be overblown, and I think it's a long time in the future. So I don't worry about that. I think we'll be able to massively benefit from having more intelligence among machines than it's going to harm us.
But you're not worried about it because you think it's gonna be, it's not tomorrow, it's not this year, or not. You are not worried about it because you think it's gonna impact.
I think there's not. My concern is a lot of times people are afraid of the Terminator, or
everyone thinks Terminator.
Right, exactly, or Skynet. There's not always a lot of specificity to why is it that if a machine gains some sort of intelligence, that it would necessarily be a threat to us.
Yeah.
So I also the time horizon too. I think it's a lot further out than people think too. So I'm not that worried about it. I mean, maybe for my kids' sake, I should put more thought into it. But generally, I think we're going to be able to technology. To back up for a second, the vast majority of technology that has been created and employed throughout human history has been immensely beneficial to humanity, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think that this is. I don't see a reason to believe that it's necessarily going to be the exception to that.
Sure. Nowadays, people is talking about the robots and how they are going to impact the jobs. History show us that it's not so. It's create more jobs, and at least someone needs to buy things. So it's perhaps it's not kill job, but change them. From
Sure. Well, look, I mean, killing jobs, depending on your point of view, on your time horizons, it can be a really hugely positive thing, right? I don't need to give you guys examples, but the vast majority of humanity, everyone was a farmer or worked, manual labor, and because of technological advancements, that's not necessarily the case anymore. So I don't fear that. A lot of people also fear not necessarily artificial intelligence, but automation, putting vast amounts of people out of work. And my argument is that that's probably a really good thing for us. Yeah.
Let's start with cars with no drivers, plane with no pilots, and let's see what happens.
Yeah.
It's the easy way for starting.
Yeah.
One last thing. What would you suggest that would be the best way to prepare the kids for the world that is coming and for the kids to help this process, this technological evolution that is freeing the world?
In a natural way, I mean, they are, their point of view now is completely different. That the way we see what's happening right now, I think it will be a natural progress for them to understand, to adapt. I remember.
But my question is, are universities today preparing
no.
in the best possible way their students to contribute to that? I think evolution or that revolution?
I would even challenge the question a little bit, because I fear when you say our children, maybe a little different than students in university. I don't know, but I think we need to have faith in children and people in universities to be able to determine how best to navigate the world themselves. Right? I just think in general we don't know what the future is going to look like, and for us to try to predict and anticipate it and teach them now based on what we predict, I think is impossible.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
It has been a wonderful conversation.
Thank you.
Hopefully technology will continue liberating the world.